And we are back on Buildface TV. I know. My cover image this time was the same as the last set of previews, but hey, I was in a hurry today. All right, so we have another set of card reveals. This is the third set of card reveals for the Spiderverse box. So I think this is the last previews we're going to get for this expansion, and it's due out it's due out in like 2 days. So yeah, I don't think we're going to see any more previews. I will leave it to the numbers wizards like Danny Privet to determine whether we're missing any cards out of this set or not. I never really follow the collector numbers. Okay, so let's dive right into this. Spiderverse preview, Spider Friends, and we're gonna get more Friends and Family cards. Okay. So the little bit about how we're getting a new team, the Symbiotes, the arc's called Symbiotes, Lethal Protectors, aka is important. None of this looks different. So today is all about the friends we made along the way, from the good, let me guess, to the bad. Yeah, okay. So Friends and Family, Betty Brant. She is a 0/3/1, cost 1. Not a fantastic stat line, but I mean, I can see that the word Friends and Family is on this card. You never play Friends and Family cards because they have excellent stat lines. You play them because of the Friends and Family text. This gives people leader. So there's almost certainly going to be situations where having leader is better than not having leader, but is giving a Spider Friends character in your front row leader a valuable enough effect in and of itself that you devote a whole deck slot to this card, and then on top of the deck slot you devote to it, you also have to pay a recruit point for it. So it's a deck slot, it's -1 card advantage, and it's a recruit point in which you could have been recruiting something like Prowler or an actual 1-drop that does things. I get that Friends and Family cards are sort of their own unique little microcosm, and comparing this to other like more general use 1-drops is a really unfair way to evaluate this card because it isn't like general use 1-drops. I mean, it's not Betty's fault. Most of the good Friends and Family keywords that we could have had have already been taken by all the other Friends and Family cards. We're getting to the point where they're sort of running out of the generic, or I think they call them common keywords. It's okay. Giving Sin Syndicate MC's leader, though. But it doesn't, though, right? Because it gives Spider Friends characters leader. Yeah, it's only Spider Friends, man. So that wouldn't give Sinister Syndicate main characters. It would give the new Venom, who is also a Spider Friend leader, which it could potentially be good, but I think it's going to be a very specific deck. Like if you're building a deck and you have probably a Spider Friends MC, I have not used Friends and Family cards in any deck where I didn't also have a Spider Friends MC. And if you're on that, then I think you look at all the different Friends and Family character options. Well, first you look at, are there 1-drops I want to play in this deck? And if there aren't 1-drops you want to play in the deck because of their general utility, which I would say Prowler probably fits just about every deck right now, then you look at the Friends and Family, and then you look at all the different ones. How many slots are you going to devote to 1-drops? Oh, sure. You're right. Patrick in the chat is correct. Secret Hideout. I forgot about Secret Hideout. Yeah, so this could potentially give, through the backdoor use of Secret Hideout, this could be a card that you could give your Cinder. That is correct. I dropped the ball on that one. Again, though, out of all the potential Friends and Family words that are available, now I'm not sure how many Friends and Family cards are legal in Second Chance. I don't remember exactly when those all got printed. So maybe if some of the other ones that have better words aren't allowed, then maybe this one makes the cut. I don't know. It's okay. Like, it's not bad. Like, if you want to do Friends and Family things, leader isn't a bad word to do with Friends and Family things. But would I rather have lethal, ferocious, wealthy? There's a whole bunch of other words on Friends and Family cards that are better than leader, I think. So probably there's a deck this would fit into. I do kind of like the idea of this in a Venom main character deck, but do I like it enough to devote a card slot to it? I don't know. All right, next up we have Venom. This is a 3-cost Venom. Man, I like this artwork. Wow, I like this artwork a lot. You know, I've publicly crapped on sort of background deficient, just white boxes as not being my favorite way to display cards. But this looks cool. I really like this art. This looks like it was made for a cover, but I don't know. So a 3-cost 3/3/2. He has symbiosis, and let's make a deal. When Venom gains any number of +1 counters, you may remove that many +1 counters from an enemy character. Wow. So the key here is this: you can't really look at him as just raw counter removal. There are much cleaner ways. If you want to put a card in your deck that just wipes counters off your opponent, there are way cleaner, less tricksy ways of doing this. But this guy is like sort of like steady. Like instead, so if you think about a card like Calypso that just removes all the +1 counters, and you think about that sort of like burst damage, this is like ping damage. I mean, I get that it's not damage. It's not quite the same thing, but this is like a pinging effect. Now, unfortunately, he doesn't have the ability to remove the +1 through placing a -1. If this guy let you place a -1, which would have the cancellation effect, it would be that the Let's Make a Deal power would work exactly the same for characters that have +1s on them already, but it would have additional utility in that you could target characters that weren't trying to stack +1s. Given the current meta, I think it's likely you're going to see a lot of +1s on a lot of different characters, so it seems reasonable that this guy will have targets. The fact that he doesn't have any way to generate +1s on himself natively, I think hurts him, and the fact that I think one of the best MCs in this whole symbiote mess is Venom also hurts him. He could definitely, yeah, Justin, this guy works a lot like a fair and balanced plot twist. You got it. That's a good pun. This guy could be a potential other power-up for Venom. Were there any characters that gained experience based on Venom? I think it was only Carnage. So I'm kind of hoping we're going to have another like low drop Carnage, like a 2 or a 3 in that range, because only having the off-team 1, which can't even play in second chance, and the 6 makes some of these other cards that rely on Carnage coming into play feel a little bit sketchy. I think this guy, if you're already in a deck that's generating a bunch of +1s, this guy's totally playable. I do not think this guy's effect is powerful enough that you build your deck around this 3-drop. This guy isn't like Wyatt Wingfoot levels of build around, but this is definitely a solid option, particularly if you're already on these teams or on this strategy where you're going to have a surplus of +1s. I'm already thinking about how cool this guy kind of fits into a Singularity deck. Well, all the symbiotes, but this one in particular, you could play him out with Singularity and start chipping away at your opponent while you're building your board. That feels pretty good. Next up, we have Morbius. Ooh, look at this art. Now, this is a little bit busier of an art panel than they generally choose for cards. You know, a lot of times we get art that's kind of centered on the one character. Even if they're in combat, it's kind of zoomed in on them. You don't necessarily see their targets. I kind of like this. It does make the card look a little bit busy. I will acknowledge that. But the art looks cool. It's from a time period of comics that I have a strong affinity for. So I get why often they choose for more focused artwork where you can really see the character. But despite the fact that this one is a little on the busy side, I really like this art. I think this is a home run. 7 cost, Spider Friends affiliated, Flight 9/11/1. Morbius. All right, he has hunger, so he can attack characters in his own front row, and when Morbius KOs a defending character in melee combat and survives, put a vitality counter on him. I mean, the Morbius main character has proven that killing your own dudes to live forever is a viable strategy. It works. It's really frustrating to deal with. This guy comes down so late, though. So to make him work, you're going to want to have a deck that's playing a lot of front row characters. So, and they need to be disposable front row characters at arguably some of the late stage of the game. Now, I know there's a school of thought that like games have gotten so long now that 7 is no longer part of the late game. It's now part of like the mid game essentially. I still, maybe less accurately, but kind of old school, I still think of 7 as being part of the late game. Once upon a time, this was the top of the curve. So how many of these disposable throwaway characters do you have? You really have to be able to play him out, and on the turn you play him, smack something to get a vitality counter on him. Otherwise, I think he's probably just going to die. I don't think 11 is like a super safe stat line on turn 7. Maybe once upon a time it was. And depending upon how well you've controlled your opponent's board up until turn 7, 11 could be a very safe stat line. So I'm not saying it's trash. I just would not personally feel comfortable playing this guy out to a board. Like, you want him to be like a big butt, hard to deal with flying blocker that kind of comes down late game and lets us presumably ranged guys like finish off your opponent taking shots from the back row while he holds the line and you're up front, you know, KOing some kind of like tokens or sentinels or some kind of like small trash mobs. Maybe. I mean, it's a cool effect. I think thematically it fits the character, and it's definitely going to be useful. Maybe useful is too strong a word. If you're a fan of Morbius, this is a card you're excited to play. This is a playable card. Is building a deck that makes this guy shine going to be the most powerful deck in a tournament setting? I'm a little more skeptical on that front. Like, you have to not only pay some of your card advantage to get this guy into play, then you have to also convert card advantage into dudes for him to eat. And again, I think the first time he comes down, turn 7, instead of attacking the other side of the board, if there's any kind of threats on your opponent's side of the board, I think you got to eat somebody with the hunger first, get a vitality counter on him so that he's got a little bit of durability there. Not the keyword durability, but a little bit of stickiness to stay on the board and survive to make use of. Because if he comes down on turn 7 and you maybe clip something and then he dies right away, I mean, may have been better off playing somebody like Ragnarok. Shout out to Bert. Next up, we have Deathlock. Man, this is another artistic home run. The art in this, the whole arc has been just fire, man. I really like it. 2 cost, 3/3/2 with range. Also, Bloodstone has 3/3. Oh no, she's a 3 cost. So that's 3/3/2 with range for 2 alone feels like a strong stat line. And I get Elsa has things that makes her stats different. Now, if you're trying to play like a down and dirty, hit the board, stun people with every attack you make kind of guy, that attack is a little soft. But 2 health, 3/3 is solid for this chunk of the game. That feels like good numbers. Alpha Magni Illuminizer. Main phase, pay a blue, choose an evil enemy character, and it's friendly on its next turn. So this is like a pseudo freeze that can only target evil characters. I'm not super impressed. Yeah. Sure. I mean, I agree. Like, plan A would be to melee attack a defending character that isn't your own. But 9 attack on turn 7, are you going to be guaranteed the ability to KO somebody? What are the kind of cards that are going to be on the board at that point? If I'm playing Thing, this is only 1 turn after I played him. You're not getting through my thing. You're not going to KO my Thing. He doesn't have lethal built into him. So I think if you're going to play this guy, I'm rebutting Justin or commenting on Justin's comment here. I think if you're going to play this guy, you're going to want to have characters to feed to him. Because if you're not using this, Ezekiel's level. Who's Ezekiel? Oh, okay. Well, I haven't got to Ezekiel yet, bruh. Okay, so back to Deathlock. Pay a blue for this effect. I think this is kind of bad. I think this is a little bit expensive. It can only target evil characters. It only makes it so they can't attack. It doesn't freeze them, so they're not actually exhausted. Not that there's a lot of effects that target exhausted characters, but if you have one of those effects in your deck, you have an effect that you want to target an exhausted character. This is objectively worse than freeze. It's expensive. I mean, I do kind of... No, I was going to say I kind of like that these are options other than Iceman, but the only, like, if what you want is a freeze, effect, I think there's better options than this guy. If what you want is a spider friend who's going to kind of stick around, 2 health on a 3/3 with range on turn 2 is kind of a fair-ish deal. Okay, so let's look at Ezekiel. I have been told it's the most creative, one of the more creative level up conditions we've seen recently. Okay. All right. So let's get into this guy. So I'm trying a new thing where I've got the chat on screen, so when I respond to comments, you guys can see, or you people can see what people are saying. But I also haven't got this sized up. Anyway, always learning, always trying to improve, right? So Ezekiel, this is the first art I'm not very impressed with. I can tell because it's so full of lines that it's from Meta Junior, but he's not really doing anything. It's just kind of like whatever. All right, so moving past the artwork, and To be fair, in another set, this artwork might have been great, but compared to all the home runs we've had, this is a little tepid. Each supporting character you include in your deck must be Spider Friends. Ooh. I kind of like that. Now, we've had effects that the net result of demand this as well, but we haven't had it like phrased this exact way before. I kind of like this. Wealthy, starting. Whoa! So on turn 1, you can recruit a 2-drop. Wow, dude, having Wealthy on a main character is a big deal. Now, he's not going to be face up at the start of every build phase, particularly with a 2/5/5 stat line. That's not the best stats. I mean, probably you'll get through turn 1 without getting stunned, but turn 2, there's going to be characters that can get to you. And even turn 1, it's not guaranteed because team attacks exist. So what's his level up? When you recruit a character with a printed cost higher than the number of resources on your side, Ezekiel gains 1 XP. Okay, so he has wealth. Oh, man. So if your opponent can figure out a way, like I know it's a callback to like old school or older school verses, but if somebody can like net launch you, you can just get locked out of the game. If you get, if Nullifier comes down and hits Wealthy, like you are super, super reliant on Wealthy, like to the point maybe where you have to run some of those other Wealthy characters who nobody ever plays, although there is a friends and family Wealthy character which could really help out with this. So not only do you have to have your main character face up at the start of your turn, you also have to have a character that costs at least 1 more than the total number of recruit points you have. So if you recruit a 2-drop on turn 1, a 3-drop on turn 2, so he could level on turn 3. At the start of turn 3. So going into main phase, he would be a 6/8/5, which is a significantly better stat line. Wow, that's a big jump, right? 2 to 6. Yeah, that feels like a big jump. Spider Society. Once per turn during your build phase, you can spend any number of recruit points to put that many +1 counters divided as you choose on supporting characters on your side. Spider Totem Bunker. Build phase, pay a yellow. Choose a Spider Friend supporting character on your side and heal each one. So, yeah, Silver Sable does have Wealthy, Patrick, you're right, and she has seen 0 play. I've never seen anybody play that card, like ever. Yeah, the art is technically good, Justin. I'll agree with that. I'm just saying as a versus card, he's kind of not doing anything. Like, I like a little bit more dynamic. Like, this Morbius is murking 3 dudes. Where'd he go? Like, he's brain blasting this guy. He's like stabbing this guy with eye pokes and he's choking this dude out. He's doing stuff. He's making things happen. Ezekiel is hanging out on the side of a building. This is much less interesting art to me. Although I agree, it is technically good art. The artist who made this is a skilled artist. Okay, so about the actual game mechanic. I don't feel like we already have queens, man. Like, we already have all these ways for Spider Friends to just heal all these wounds off. This feels like a lot. Yes, it's good. Healing wounds is good. Is healing a wound off a supporting character as good as queens, which can heal it off the main character? No, of course not. Main character wounds are way more important than supporting character wounds. But there are good Spider Friends supporting characters who you would want to be sticky and stick around. This seems like a power that's gonna matter. And as far as spending your recruit points to put +1 counters on supporting characters, I'm just not sure if that's good. For one, if you spend 6 recruit points, you get total composite stats of an increase of 12, right? You get 6 +1 counters, so that's 12 stats. If you recruit 6 cost thing, for an example, that's 16 stats, not even counting his health. So that's like 16 stats per turn for the next 3 turns. How long are those 12 counters going to last? That does not seem... Now, where this would be good is if you front-loaded your deck with a ton of aggressive stuff, and at the end, your hand's gutted, you're gassed out, you don't have a bunch of characters to play anymore, but you can deeply invest in the board that you built before you gassed your hand out. So aggro often has this problem where you run all your cards out of your hand, you don't have any resources left. This guy, often the way we solve that problem is you want to have card draw effects. You want to have ways to let you reload your aggro deck. This guy doesn't let you reload your aggro deck, but he lets you take whatever, 3-drop, 2-drop, 4-drop, whatever these lower cost cards are that you played. And I guess he wouldn't be able to do this effect until turn 3 at the soonest, right? Turn 4. So if he levels on turn 3, starting on turn 4, he could start investing in using recruit points rather than to convert card advantage to board pressure. He can convert recruit points directly into board pressure. So it's not as good a rate of return as straight up recruiting a character, but I think that's maybe an unfair comparison. I realize I made that comparison. That's the first place my brain went, but I think that's missing the point of what he's trying to do here. If your hand is empty, you have no recruit point, nothing to do with your recruit points are just wasted. And we've all had turns where we've squandered recruit points. I'm glad you're so excited about this one, Banana. So whether it's mid-game or late game, like Justin observes here, converting recruit points directly into board pressure without having to have that exchange mechanism of the hand, like it's one less step. Again, the exchange rate is not as good as just straight up playing a character, but if we assume a world in which you cannot play a character because you have nothing in your hand, then this is just pure value. This is value from the ether. It doesn't come out of your deck. It doesn't come out of your hand. It's just straight value to the board, and you don't have to invest all of it. You could recruit a character with some of your recruit points if you have one card in hand. I mean, going into the main phase, you're always going to have like 2 cards, right? You row, or not in the main phase. Going into your turn, you're going to draw 2 cards. You're going to row a resource. Then you're going to play. Oh, jeez. Yeah, running this guy with machine abuse seems like a spicy meatball. So I'm not totally sure I fully grasp exactly the correct ways to play this card, but the more I think about it, the more I talk about it, I see angles where you're going to be able to get value that nobody else could get. I don't know if that's totally a joke, man. I think the machine abuse shell is one of the most powerful things you can do in the second chance format. So thinking about shoving that into any main character is probably not a bad thought. It's not going to work in every main character, especially with this guy fighting for the yellows. But I mean, you might not even need to use the heal on Spider Friend's characters if what you're doing is outvaluing your opponent by dumping so many +1 counters on them that they can't deal with it. Now, again, this is probably going to be a meta that's really heavy with +1 counters, which means things that can counter +1 counters. Oh, good point, Patrick. I forgot about all Spider Friends deck. There's no way to invent a machine with this guy. Yeah, okay. Well, this is one of those things that happens in these reaction videos. When I'm reading the cards in real time and reacting to them, I sometimes make mistakes. Banana, you got me, man. All right. Is this Ultimate's artwork, Captain America? 4-cost Spider Friend, 4/5/2. Choose 3 face-up enemy characters and put 3/2/1 -1. Oh, look, he's banging his shield off dude's brains. Yes. Okay, let me stop fanboying for a second here. First of all, I absolutely love this artwork. I like the star on the shoulder. Who drew that? Was it Finch? I know Millar wrote the Ultimate Strong. That doesn't look like Finch, but the Ultimate's Captain America look, I think, was originally Finch. Might be wrong, though. I'm sure the chat will correct me in a second. You guys know artists better than I do. The shield throw power seems really good. Like, really, really good. Particularly, we already mentioned the machine abuse deck in a meta where you're going to be seeing a lot of decks that want to just flood the board with a bunch of little dudes. 3/2/1ing guys with a bing, bing, bang from throwing that shield. Feels like decent power. Just to put it in terms of raw stats, we've got that's 6. So you pay a red for a total of -6, -6. Latent mutation is pay a blue plus the latent mutation itself to get -4, -4. And people play that all day long. This is a better value. Absolutely a better value. Is 4/5/2 on turn 4 a decent stat line? It's a little weak. It definitely... I mean, you look at a card like Spider-Gwen, who you don't even have to draw your hand. You can recruit her straight out of your deck, and she's a 4/7/1. So that said, even though it's pronounced Miller, not Millar, I'm going to have to fact check you on that one, bro. I've been corrected hard saying Miller before. Anyway, apparently there's a debate about Mark, the comic book writer's last name. I was made to feel foolish for not saying Millar before, and now I'm being told that Millar is wrong. So I don't know. Either way, I was wrong in the past or I'm wrong now. But Captain America. So I think he can get away with having his stats at a 4/5, which again is a little bit soft for the turn 4, but he's going to stick around for 2 turns unless your opponent has lethal or some kind of other thing to do to him. And in essence, putting -6 counters total. Obviously, it can't all go on one character, but putting 3, 2, 1 minus counters on people, you have the ability to make his slightly smaller stats not matter as much because he shrinks dudes down and then he attacks them. After he stuns people by banging his shield off their brain containers, he gets to like come in and punch him, and his 4 attack actually feels better in that situation than if he was just coming down as a 4/5 and has to attack honestly. Now, there are, of course, going to be times where you draw this guy and you don't draw the red, and I mean, obviously playing a 4/5/2 on turn 4 is better than playing nothing. All right, if your source is Mark Miller, then I'll have to trust you, Justin. Obviously, playing a 4/5/2 on turn 4 is better than playing nothing, but it doesn't feel great. And how often do you end up in situations where that red has gone somewhere else on earlier turns where you have to save it for something else that's in your deck? I think if you're going to put this guy in your deck and this is your 4-drop, you've definitely got to have some reds. Like, you want to use the shield throw. Like, I think if you're not using the shield throw, this guy feels a little bit bad. To compare him to Lilith has a 4/5 stat block too, but the words on her are what make that card good, and I think this falls in the same bucket where 4/5 is a little soft stat wise. I do like seeing two health on him, and man, that shield throw power, that's top of the pops, yo. That's good stuff. Yeah, so this expansion is supposed to be out on the 24th, like I speculated at the top of the video. Maybe I even knew that from the other review articles. I don't know. It's been a week. So let's go through these real quick. I'm going to give Betty Brant a thumbs medium. All the friends and family characters, if your deck needs what that friends and family character does, then this card's good. If your deck doesn't need this effect, then there's other 1-drops that I think are going to be better. Venom, I think I'm going to give him a somewhat hesitant thumbs up. I do really like this card. I like what he does, but I think it might be a little narrow. Like, you need to have a deck that can put, like, Let's Make a Deal needs to be hot on this guy. Otherwise, you want to play something else. So if your deck makes Let's Make a Deal into a good power, then this is a good card. So I think it's a thumbs up card, but this isn't somebody you can just throw into any deck and expect positive outcomes. Morbius 7-drop. So I'm going to bifurcate my rating here. I think at a tournament table, this guy's probably a thumbs down. I think this guy probably isn't good enough to make an appearance at a tournament table. Ezekiel might change my mind on that, just on the basis that he limits your card pool to only Spider-Friends characters, and without looking at the other Spider-Friends 7-drops that are legal within Second Chance format, maybe this is the one that sees play. But overall, in a wider format where I can play any 7-drop I want, or even the Second Chance pool where I can play a limited but still larger pool of 7-drops, I don't know if this guy makes the cut. As somebody who actually likes Morbius, likes this art, enjoys the Spider-Man lore, although it's not my absolute favorite Marvel stuff, but I do like Spider-Man, I think this guy gets a thumbs up. Like, to the kitchen table crowd, I think this is a great card. I'm very hesitant. I'm skeptical about this guy's performance at the tournament table. So does that equal a thumbs medium? I don't know. I mean, what kind of player are you? Do you like playing the game just for fun? Then this guy's a thumbs up. Deathlock. I think this power is a little bit of a thumbs down. Like, I think this is a weak, low utility power, particularly with things like In Good Hands running around the meta. If you're in a meta where people are incentivized to not play evil characters, I think this guy gets even worse. Nice to see characters on 4 that aren't Boomer. Yeah, I agree with that, Justin. But overall, despite the fact that this power feels very anemic to me, overcosted for what it does, I'm not very impressed with this power. Range, 3/3/2, particularly in a deck where you're locked to Spider Friends. This guy seems like he's a playable card. I'm going to give him a thumbs medium. I do really like this artwork, and if you like Deathlock, I think this Deathlock is more fun than the other version we've seen 5 years ago or whenever that was published. Okay, Ezekiel as a main character. Again, I'm going to bifurcate a little bit here because I want to be clear that I am not sure this guy is going to have legs in a tournament setting. Like, I think there's a chance, and that's somewhat on the back of Spider Friends being not the strongest team. Now, I could be totally wrong because Spider Friends has so much healing, and this guy has the ability to take some of those weaker Spider Friends stat lines and buff them up. Kitchen Table, this guy is 2 thumbs way, way, way up. I like how he levels up. I like what he wants to do. I really like everything about the card. I'm not saying anything negative about how I personally feel about this card. I'm going to enjoy playing this guy at my kitchen table. Is this guy going to make my tournament gauntlet to prepare for an event? I'm going to have to play him, I'm afraid. I think he might be a little too wonky, and you have to... So many things just have to go exactly right for you. Now, fortunately, in the second chance format, you don't have to worry about a turn 2 nullifier totally screwing you out of wealthy. And as was pointed out by the chat, there are other Spider Friends affiliated characters that have wealthy, so you don't have to entirely rely on him to kind of get this. But I could see games where you just don't draw the appropriately costed characters, or you can't keep him face up, and you just kind of struggle and die. And if that's going to happen to this guy, it's going to happen at the tournament table. So once you get there, I think this is pretty strong. I think that getting there might be an issue. So I'm going to give him a thumbs medium tournament table, but it's no hate. Maybe it's just my own lack of imagination, my own lack of ability to see where this guy is really going to shine. But I think he's going to be disruptible. I think as soon as you flip this dude over, your opponent's going to go, okay, I know exactly what I need to do to make sure this guy can't advance. That said, I love the play patterns. I'm really excited to play this card. Captain America. 2 American thumbs up. Way, way up. I love this card. I love the flavor. I love the art. I do think the stats are just a little softer than I would have liked, but on the basis of this power being pretty freaking good, I think this card is going to see play. I don't think it's going to be limited to decks where, like with Ezekiel, you can only play Spider Friends. I think this guy is just generally good, provided you're on reds. If you don't have reds, then he's much worse, of course. So that's it for today's previews. Again, I'm not sure if we've seen all the cards for the set. I know with Maximum Carnage, Danny mentioned that they had actually revealed all the cards in the card reveals, so there weren't any surprises left in the box. I don't know if that's the case here. But I'm sure within the next few days, we're going to find out what the few remaining cards are. So thank you to everybody in chat for the participation. Before we wrap up here today, I want to remember to give a shout out to all my patrons. And I actually wrote down a list so I don't forget anybody, because that's always my excuse. I can't name everybody because what if I forget somebody? So I'm going to say thank you to Patrick, Banana, Brad, Jason, David, Earl, Justin, a different Patrick, and Roland. These are the patrons who support at the... whatever level it is where I said I was going to shout them out all the time, and I haven't done that often enough. So apologies to them. I love my patrons. We have a great chat. If you like what we do here, patreon.com/thebuildphase. We'd love to get you into our clubhouse and see what you have to say about these cards as well.